All right, so Dune, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Um, or actually, let me read the official synopsis. Paul Atreides, a brilliant and gifted young man born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, must travel to the most dangerous place in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people, as malevolent forces explode in conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence. Only those who can conquer their own fear will survive. The cast includes Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto Atreides, Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck, Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen, and Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. I thought that was a funny character named Duncan Idaho. I was like, hey, I'm Stuart Montana or something. I don't know. It just sounded weird.
Johnny Oklahoma.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into any sort of spoiler territory, what did you guys think of the movie? Just your spoiler-free impressions.
I was kind of bored by it. It was okay, though.
I felt it was solid. It's a good mix of action and character development. But, yeah.
This is kind of a hard one to review. I will say, I think I liked it more than you guys. I liked it quite a bit. I think, on the plus side, I think Denis Villeneuve, man, this movie is just like Blade Runner 2049 has, some beautiful shots in it. I think just the way it looks and everything, especially the vehicles flying over landscapes. Some of those shots, it just looks fantastic. I think. Let's get the obvious out of the way. This is a part one, Dune part one, and by the way, they just announced yesterday. I think they greenlit part two, and it's slated to come out in 2023. Who knows with COVID and everything if that'll actually happen? But it is good to know that they greenlit it. My one thing is, and having never read the source material, I don't know if there's a better spot they could do it in. But where they ended this movie, it was just like a low energy moment to me. I wish there was something a little more exciting they could have went out on, but not being familiar with the source material, I don't know if that's really possible.
Yeah, I read it 2 decades ago, but yeah, that's probably as good a place as any, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. I wasn't familiar with Dune at all until last year. I watched the David Lynch version that came out in the 80s.
Oh, man.
And it has a lot of the same,
that has Sting in it.
Yeah. It has a lot of the same plot points obviously as this movie. Yeah. But the one thing I didn't like about that movie is it did feel so condensed, cuz not only did it have most the stuff we see in this movie, it had a lot of stuff on the end that just seemed a bunch of time has passed and all this shit happened, and you're I would have liked to maybe seen some. So I liked it with this version. They are letting it breathe a little more because you watch that movie and it does feel like they crammed 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag, and so
I don't remember exactly. I want to say this was maybe half of the first book. But the thing is, there's a ton of books. So if they're successful, they could be pumping these out for a while.
So from what I understand, so they're going to do the second one, which will finish the first book.
Okay.
Now, I was listening to a podcast about it today, and Villeneuve says he'd like to actually do a third one because there's another book in the Dune series I think called something Messiah. I don't remember.
Probably Messiah of Dune and then Children of Dune.
Messiah of Dune, probably. And I think that one supposedly takes place maybe 10 to 15 years after the events of the first book. So I don't know if he does that, if he would actually wait a period of time so Timothée Chalamet can get older or.
No, I doubt that.
I don't know. Maybe he would.
I used to think that as kids, when I was a kid, I'd see somebody and they'd be in a movie and they'd be an adult, and then there'd be they'd do a flashback of these kids. Wow, they must have filmed this and then waited 20 or 30 years. It's the dedication of these guys.
But apparently it sounds like HBO's trying to go all in because I guess they're going to make an HBO Max series about like the whole Bene Gesserit like sisterhood, and then like it sounds like they want to make this like a universe, you know.
Okay, so they're spin-offs and side trails and the whole business. Okay, we'll see.
So it might turn into something. So yeah, it seems like you guys are kind of so on it. I liked it a lot. It's weird because I feel like this movie is like, I think, heavy on setup. Like, I wonder if the second movie will have more action in it. Not that this movie didn't have action in it.
I mean, even with that amount, there's still like a lot of stuff behind the curtain.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I'm excited.
I mean, it's like a whole like you got multiple cultures and politics, and I mean, there's a lot of like kind of stuff going on.
All right, so should we go into spoiler territory, guys?
Spoilers.
Just too.
Now, I will say, like, with the other movies we reviewed on this show, like, I usually just watch them once and then try to, remember as best I can, as we kind of go through and break things down. With this movie, I actually watched it a second time and took notes just because there are, like, so many characters and so many factions and, like you were saying, so many, like, political things that, like, I kind of wanted to jot some stuff down. So before the movie even starts, before the WB logo gets on there, we there's like a little thing where a guy speaks in a foreign language and it translates to "Dreams are messages from the deep," and he does have a lot of dreams in this movie. So the movie starts out. I think we get like a kind of a narration by Zendaya's character that we later find out her name is Chani. I think.
I don't remember.
Chani. I'm not sure. I think it's pronounced Chani. And she basically, she's on this planet Arrakis, which will be the center point of this movie. It's a sand planet. And basically, now this is something I was hoping you'll be, but it sounds like you read the book a long time ago, so I don't know if you'll know this or not. So basically, one of the things that this movie revolves around is on the sand planet, like in the sand, there's this stuff called spice. And the Fremen, who are the natives of this planet, and Zendaya's character is one of them. Basically, for a long time now, they've been kind of pushed underground by this group called the Harkonnen, which is kind of like the villains of this movie, basically. And basically, they're mining the spice, and anytime the Fremen try to stand up to them, they just kill them, basically.
Yeah.
And so they're under their thumb. Now, so the stuff they're after, this spice, at one point early on, like Paul Atreides is watching a video, and it says, or listening to this thing that's talking about it, and it says spice is a hallucinogen with health benefits to the Fremen, and it also turns their eyes blue for some reason.
Right. Yeah. If you've taken it for a while, you get these like bright blue eyes.
Now, I don't know if you. What are the benefits of it? Like,
because I believe like
live longer,
long life, but also there's some like. Well, obviously for him, he has like some flashes of possible future and stuff. Like he has dreams, hallucinations,
right?
But also, apparently, like so, piloting like an aircraft through interstellar space is incredibly difficult. And like the only way anyone's ever figured out how to do it is by taking spice. Like it opens up your mind enough that you can actually like do this interstellar travel. So that's why it's so valuable as like a trade. Like it's like the center of the universe basically because of its properties.
Okay, I'm glad you explained that because the movie didn't really. So I did jot down. It says the other people use it to find safe spaces between the stars for interplanetary travel, but it didn't say that it was because they were like taking it. So like I didn't know like if they use it as some sort of fuel in their spaceship. I didn't realize that. Okay, they take it and
that allows them to pilot. So basically, that's why they say whoever controls the spice controls, basically the universe. There's some direct quote that I'm fucking up, but
and is Arrakis like the only planet they've ever found that has spice on it?
Right, that's the only place it exists, and they don't say this in the movie, but I believe it's like worm shit. Like maybe I'm remembering incorrectly.
I mean, that would make sense.
But I might have to look that one up. I should have done some research.
So yeah, after we get that opening, like with her explaining kind of the history of Arrakis, we go to Caladan, which is where. Okay, actually, before I do this, I want to kind of make sure I just got the lay of this land correct. So basically, there's like this interplanetary government known as the Imperium. And it's overseen by some emperor who we never actually see in this movie, but we get the sense that he's a villain.
Right. So this is a bit confusing. I'm trying to kind of remember this. It seems like there's like 3 main families, and they're all kind of in this power struggle. And so the Empire is kind of like the big one, and they've essentially subcontracted the spice stuff to what is it called? Harkonnens. And so they're kind of like the second one. And then, is it Atreides?
Atreides, yeah.
Atreides, they're the third house. And it doesn't bring this up in the book, and it's kind of confusing because... So what happens is the Emperor takes the Harkonnens out of power, and he tells the Duke, okay, you guys are going to come in now, and you're going to run the spice thing. And almost immediately, the Emperor sides with the person he took out of power, gives him extra troops to go back and kill.
Yeah, and so we'll get to all that.
Yeah, so it's kind of confusing, but like the whole thing, like bringing him into power, is like basically a kind of a plot to eliminate him.
Yeah. So yeah, we're at the. So now I'll go back. So yeah, we go to Caladan, which is House Atreides. We're introduced to Paul and his mother, Lady Jessica. And instantly, like, we find out that there's kind of a mysticism in this world. So his mom, Lady Jessica, is part of this kind of weird sect called the Bene Gesserit.
Right, religious order.
Yeah, it's like this religious order, and they can actually do like some mystical things. And so, like, one is like they can use basically a Jedi mind trick where they use this voice on people. And actually, that's probably where Star Wars got it from, right? Because I've heard that Dune influenced Star Wars, and the novels came out before Star Wars.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
So very similar to that. Also, I think somewhere along the way they would mention that the big sandworms on Arrakis, they refer to them as the Shai-Hulud. So yeah, like you were talking about, so kind of like, I guess, an envoy from the Emperor travels to Caladan, and that's where they transfer power of Arrakis over to Paul's father, Leto, played by Oscar Isaacs. And they say, I have it written down here somewhere, that house is called House Carino. They're from Shaddam 4, I guess. So that must
be the Emperor's family.
I think so. Yeah. I think that must be. So yeah, the Emperor gives control of Arrakis to House Atreides. Next, we're introduced to Duncan, Idaho, played by what's his name, Momoa.
Right.
And he's basically like kind of one of the top soldiers, I guess, of House Atreides.
Right, and he also is involved in like his training.
Yeah, and so he's tasked. He's going to go to Arrakis about a month before everybody else. Him and his team.
Right, he's supposed to
kind of get
the Fremen, right?
Yeah, meet the Fremen and kind of get the lay of the land, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And Paul really wants to go with him. But he's like, no, you can't come with me. That'll get me court-martialed or whatever.
Right. And he'd had a dream where, like, he saw Duncan die, and he wanted to go with him because he said like in his dream he felt like if he'd been there, like he wouldn't have died or something.
Yeah, and he also dreamed of Zendaya, her character, which he does several times.
Yeah,
in this movie.
he has quite a few visions of her.
Let's see. So there's a scene between Paul and his father, and this also goes to kind of what you're talking about. So his father believes the Emperor wants to pit House Atreides against the Harkonnens to weaken them. So he kind of knows that the Emperor is like doing this.
So he's not thinking like full on like just betraying him, but actually just trying to get them to be pit each other against each other.
Right. So I don't think he doesn't think what's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
But he does know the Emperor is being like duplicitous or whatever and trying to play them against each other. So he knows there's like a political thing going on here. But at the same time, he believes that if the House Atreides can harness the spice, like they can become like, the most powerful house or whatever. Next, we were introduced to Josh Brolin's character, Gurney, another like top soldier, and he's training Paul. Now, question for you guys. So, like, they do this whole thing where everybody has their own personal kind of shield that they can turn on.
Right, yeah.
And it's weird because, like, if they hit each other fast, like, it turns blue, and, like, they got to get to where they can, like, slowly like cut them and it'll turn red and kill them. I didn't really understand it.
There's something like the slow blade penetrates the shield or something. So it's like some kind of like inertia effect. Like if you hit it hard, like it actually like kind of kicks back or whatever. But like you have to like kind of ease it in there.
It just seems like a weird fighting, like fast, slow.
Right. Because it can still like kind of take blunt hits, but it doesn't like, they're not getting like bodily injured, like in the sense of like a cut or something.
No, I heard like that the reason they do this is maybe to have a reason that people would sword fight rather than gunfight.
I mean that makes sense because
although at the end of the movie they do introduce that the Fremen do have some sort of gun. We never actually in this movie see it shot, so I don't know if that gun can penetrate a shield or not.
I don't know. The one guy does get, he kind of gets shot with a dart or something, and it just kind of like, well, that's the dad. Like he gets the dart is like trying to drill through the shield or something almost.
But, yeah, how'd that get through? Because it came fast.
Yeah, but then it stopped, but it kept like trying to force its way through.
Interesting.
Because it didn't initially penetrate when it was like coming in.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Fast,
That's one of the things I was wondering about is how that got him. So yeah, Gurney he trains Paul.
Now, does it show Gurney die?
That's another question I have. So yeah, later on, like
I was trying to remember.
Later on, they get an attack, and we see him like in his group like charging towards the enemy with knives in hand. But then, yeah, I don't think we ever see him again. And I don't think it ever tells one way or the other whether he lived or died.
Maybe so.
I'm guessing since they didn't show it, he'll probably show up again.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, like, but yeah, I was trying to remember. It's like, did he die?
It never showed him die.
He just disappeared.
But obviously the Harkonnens win that fight.
Yeah.
So like, if he is alive, he would have had to like escape to somewhere on the planet. You would think. So next we take a trip to Giedi Prime, which is the house of the Harkonnens, led by Vladimir Baron.
Who played that? Was it some?
That's Stellan Skarsgård. So he's the guy, like in the Thor movies, that plays like the scientist guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I will say like this guy looks nasty.
Yeah.
But the guy they used in the 80s movie, they made him look even worse. Like he had like all these blood boils on him.
And
Yeah. He looked really fucking gross.
He was the Harkonnen leader, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the big guy. And he has like a gravity belt so he can kind of float around.
Oh, I thought that was because he was taking spice or something.
No, that was like a technology thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like I noticed, like when he moves, like those you can like see those like red things light up in his spine or whatever, like they're helping him like move or something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's like gigantic, so he's got some kind of support. Yeah.
But he has a quote basically because Dave Bautista's character, I think his name's Raban or something. He's the Baron's nephew, and he's basically pissed off that they took Arrakis away from them, and he's like, "Aren't you mad or whatever?" But then like the Baron's like, "When is a gift not a gift?" And he basically he says the Emperor is jealous of Paul's growing power, and basically lays out that this is a plan to like.
Right. So yeah, that's what it seems like. Is like he didn't feel comfortable attacking. Was it Leto?
Yeah.
On his home planet, but he was kind of also thought maybe he was getting too powerful, and so bringing him to Arrakis. But wait, is it Arrakis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was like, am I confusing this with the planet on Starship Troopers? But
what was that planet called now?
yeah, I don't know.
I only saw that movie once.
I've seen that movie like 10 times.
I remember at the time I didn't like it, but maybe I didn't necessarily get all the things they were going for.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't get that it was like making fun of war and it was a satire. Like they did it with all these like good-looking actors who like portrayed the characters in a likable way, so people actually thought they were serious. Like, oh, it's a pro-war movie, and I'm with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe if I watched it again through an adult lens, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go back to Caladan. Lady Jessica wakes Paul in the middle of the night to meet with the Truth Sayer to the Emperor and Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserits.
And I don't think we mentioned this, but like virtually everyone in this sect is a female.
Yeah. Or at least it seems that way.
It is, yeah.
Before he meets with the Reverend Mother, we're introduced to Dr. Yue. He checks Paul's vitals, and like we'll get to it, but like he's going to betray the group, and I get the sense that he's not the smartest guy in the world, but we'll get to that. We also find out that Lady Jessica knows sign language, which she uses a lot during the movie.
It comes up, yeah.
Okay, so she tells Paul, and you can tell like she's like afraid of it, like she's very nervous about this, but she's like, Paul, you got to meet with this lady, and you got to do whatever she says, basically. And she's like, use all of the training I've taught you. But so basically, he goes in this room, and she's seated, and like she uses the voice, makes him kneel in front of her, and then she has this box, and she's like, put your hand in the box. And she's like, if you take it out, she has like this poison needle to his neck. And she's like, if you take it out, you're going to die. I'm going to, hit you with this needle. And basically the box, like, it's supposed to put him in immense pain. Like, I don't know if it burns his hand or makes it feel like.
Right. And in the book, you can describe this. Like, on the movie, you can't really describe it. But yeah, basically, like, the sensation that all the flesh is being burnt off your hand and he's just like charcoal in there. It's pretty nasty.
And so while he's going through this, Lady Jessica is like kind of like chanting this thing to herself, which I think is supposed to like kind of like a famous like kind of quote in the Dune series. Like Kevin Smith is like a huge like fan of the 80s Dune, and he's like memorized this quote. So apparently like it's a thing, but she's like, it goes, I must not fear. Fear's the mind killer. Fear's the little death that brings obliteration. And I'll face my fear, and I'll permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye and see its path. And where the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. I think he maybe brings
used
up
a couple times.
Yeah. Fear's the mind killer is like kind of a famous thing from it. So after their meeting,
the mother like kind of does like a spell outside the door to help him like get over this pain, it seemed like.
I couldn't tell actually if she was actually casting a spell or if she was just like
Praying or something.
Yeah,
praying.
probably more like a prayer because I don't think that would have been allowed. Basically,
Yeah, I think I took it more as a prayer, and like he was in so much pain that
right. And later, the mom accosts the older woman.
yeah. So that's another. So yeah. So as they're walking out, like after that, like yeah, Lady Jessica and the Reverend Mother have a conversation, and apparently like the older lady tells Lady Jessica that she was only supposed to have daughters. And which is weird to me because like in this future can like they determine like the sex of their baby,
Right.
Like,
So they have a lot of like control and stuff in this sect. Like they have a lot of kind of certain powers and stuff. So it's within her power to have just had a female. But also, I don't know if they really get into this. There is a prophecy, like even though this is all female sect, there's a prophecy that one day there will be a man who will be able to have their powers, and for some reason men generally can't or don't. But and he will be like a savior of.
yeah. So they do get into that a little bit because basically Jessica says she had Paul and taught him in the ways of the Bene Gesserits in hopes he could become the Kwisatz Haderach. I'm probably mispronouncing that.
Yeah, Kwisatz Haderach.
Kwisatz Haderach. A prophesied person that has a mind powerful enough to bridge space and time, past and future. Now, we'll get to it, but there is, I'm not familiar with the books, but there's some things that happen in this movie that I'm like, is there some weird timey-wimey or past life stuff going on? We'll get to that. Oh yeah, they mentioned that the Bene Gesserits basically try to steer the politics of the Imperium from the shadows.
Right, so they're kind of a shadow hand as well, and they have a lot of power, and people don't fuck with them basically.
There was that conversation where she was talking to the Harkonnens about what would happen to the.
Right, and also they gave some orders to the Harkonnens, and they're like, that they wouldn't like betray her because they're like, no, they'll kill us.
So like they're a really like feared and respected group in this world. So like the Truthsayer lady, like she works directly for the Emperor, but I couldn't totally get the sense if like she's totally on the Emperor's side or not.
Yeah, they're kind of their own entity, but I feel like they're more like a Littlefinger. They got their hand in the different pots.
So like they have their own agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So finally, it's time for Paul and his mom and dad and basically House Atreides to go to Arrakis. So they land on Arrakis, and like instantly, all the Fremen are chanting Lisan al-Gaib towards Paul. So like they've been told that he could be like this Messiah.
I mean, it may have came out that he passed the that test or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then that's part of the prophecy, I guess, maybe.
From there, they board what they call an ornithopter, or sometimes they call them thopters for short. Now, these I thought looked fucking cool. They kind of look like a dragonfly.
Yeah, it's a dragon. They get in a mechanical dragonfly.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like a helicopter dragonfly.
Yeah.
I thought those things looked badass.
Yeah, they look pretty cool.
And see, this is where I like really think this movie looks cool. Is like these scenes, like these things, like flying through the desert, just like those shots. I'm like, wow, this movie
Looks
shot
good,
well
yeah.
and looks really good. Let's see. We find out. So they fly the dragonflies from where they initially land to the city. I don't know if the city actually has a name or not, but the city in Arrakis, and they show that the whole city is protected by a shield wall that protects them from the weather and the big sandworms.
Yeah, apparently the worms can't go past this wall.
Although later on in the movie, when we had the whole scene where the worm swallows up the the thing that's mining the spice.
Oh, right.
Like, he asked them, why can't we just put a shield around it? And they're like, oh, the shield drives them crazy.
He's like, that really pisses him off.
So how does the shield around the city not piss them off?
I don't know, but it does have like the giant stones going around, so maybe it's like a physical barrier.
Okay. So back in the city, Lady Jessica, she's like, here's the candidates for like house maidens or whatever. And one of them, she singles out her name, weird name. Her name's Shadow Mapes. And like, she's like, everyone else can go. I want to talk to this woman. She sees that this woman has or senses, I guess, that she has a knife on her.
Concealed weapon, yeah.
And she's kind of afraid that this woman might attack her, but the lady's like, no, the knife is a gift. And so she gives Jessica what they call a Chris knife, which is a knife that's fashioned out of the tooth of a sandworm. And apparently, like, they mention this several times in the movie, and like he has visions of basically being handed one of these knives.
Right.
So like it's going to come into play. Now the woman here says that Lisan Al-Gaib stands for the mother and the son. I thought it was just the name they were calling him, but
Yeah, I don't know.
so I'm not sure. She says that like Lisan Al-Gaib, the mother and the son. So I didn't know if she was saying that's exactly what it translates into or what. I wasn't quite sure. Next, Paul is watching like a holographic video about Arrakis. It shows like this weird like sand walk people can do to avoid the worms.
Right, the worms are attracted by like rhythmic sounds. So like if you walk a certain way, you sound like it's just the wind blowing sand over the dunes or something.
Yeah. Although it'd be annoying to have to walk a long distance doing that.
Yeah.
And so they also show like this cute little desert mouse in the hologram, and like he goes over there to look at it because he likes the look of it or whatever. And right at that time, like what they call a hunter seeker comes out of the wall, and it's like this little mechanical, like kind of mosquito looking thing but bigger. That's like
It's
supposed
basically
to
like
kill
a
him.
flying poison dart.
Yeah, but it can't quite see him because he's like hidden in this hologram.
Right. Plus, yeah, maybe the optics of the thing are super
Screwing with it.
yeah.
And as it flies past, he like grabs it and crushed it, which they make it sound like maybe that's like a hard thing to do or something, but he did it.
Right, and actually, it was being piloted by somebody who'd been like hidden away or something what was it, like in a plumbing or something? I don't remember.
Yeah, like there was a Harkonnen guy like hidden in the plumbing,
Right,
And he was piloting it.
that thing.
Yeah. So now we get a scene that you referenced earlier. We're back on Giedi Prime, and the Reverend Mother is having a conversation with the Baron and the Polka Dot Man, David Desmalchin, his character, who's like the kind of like, I guess, the number one to the Baron or whatever, his
Right.
right-hand man kind of thing. And they put like this cone of silence around him. And yeah, so she tells him that the Emperor is basically on the Harkonnen side, and they're going to secretly strengthen the Harkonnens with his soldiers called the Sardaukar. He tells the Baron that he can kill Leto, but he must spare Jessica and Paul, since Jessica is a member of the Bene Gesserits.
Right.
And like you said, like he's like he agrees to that because he's, I guess, intimidated by her and the Bene Gesserits. But at the same time, as soon as she leaves, like David Smolcian's like, "You're going to let them live?" He's like, "No Atreides can live, but I'm just going to go toss him out in the desert, and the fucking desert can kill him."
I didn't kill them.
Yeah, exactly.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. So now, basically, Leto, Paul, and all the military guys are kind of being shown around, and they find out that there's going to be this, what they call a judge of the change named Dr. Liet Kynes. And like, I think her job is like, she's appointed by the Emperor, but she's kind of like transitioning Arrakis from the Harkonnen to them, I think, is kind of her job.
I don't know. I don't even remember this.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly. They were saying that like, but they were talking about how like they have these silos, and for them to, they have to fill these silos with spice like every 25 days or something like that to be successful or something.
Right, that's their production goals or whatever.
And anyway, that Dr. Liet Kynes, she's an imperial ecologist, and yeah, I don't know. She's supposed to help them in the transition somehow. Now Jason Momoa comes back, Duncan, Idaho. He lived with the Fremen for like a month because he had been there ahead of time. He was almost killed by one of them, he says, but he had like a hard fight with them and like, I guess, won their respect or whatever. And so,
buddies.
Yeah, he's been hiding out in what they call a sietch with them, and that's what they call like their caves or whatever.
Cave system.
And like apparently there's around Arrakis, these caves are all over.
Plentiful.
And they figured like the Harkonnens thought there was maybe only like 50,000 Fremen, but apparently there's like millions of them.
Right. Yeah, there's different estimates.
We're introduced to like one of their leaders named Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem.
I was wondering if that was him. It looked quite a bit different though. It looks similar but different at the same time.
You know what? Like, I was like, I know who this is. Who is this? And like at first I was like, Benicio del Toro? No, that's not right. And then eventually I'm like, oh yeah, okay, Javier Bardem.
I was like, it reminds me of him, but it doesn't look exactly like him.
Yeah, he had kind of a different look. And he like he spits on the ground like in front of Leto, and at first they like take offense to it, but then they find out that like because water is so rare, like spitting like that is like a sign of respect, like you're giving them your body's precious moisture, you know. And basically like he's like tells Leto that like we're okay with you mining the spice, that's fine. All we ask is that you just leave us the fuck alone. Basically, you don't come into our caves, you leave the Fremen alone. Now, this is one of the things that I was wondering about, like the weird time stuff or past life stuff, because as he's leaving, he says in Fremen dialect, and it like subtitles it, that he recognizes Paul.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that seems like the first time they've met.
I mean, he may also have visions.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. So maybe the spice gave him a vision of Paul.
Right.
Okay. That makes sense. We're introduced to like some of the equipment they have on Arrakis by Jason Momoa. They have what they call a paracompass, because apparently because of the moon surrounding the planet, like a compass needle will not point true north.
Which is, I mean, what a like needless detail, right? He's like, oh, we can't have compasses. We have to make special compasses, but it works just like a compass.
Yeah. But just so you know. They also have like a sand compactor that can be used to basically distract the worms. Like you plant it in the sand and it like goes...
Right, they're called thumpers.
Thumpers, yeah.
Yeah, so they make a thumping and then the worm's attracted to that.
I think they also have, I don't know if they show it there, but it comes up later, what they like a sand spreader that like if you're stuck in the sand, like it...
Oh, right. Yeah, it does something because they'll put out their tents and get covered in sand, so they need like this thing to tunnel out.
To tunnel out, yeah. Okay, so yeah, next we're introduced to like, I guess a pretty important part of like what they need is what they call still suits. So these are suits made by the Fremen. They have a filtration system in them that cools the body and recycles sweat. It has a tube where you can drink water, and it makes your body only loses a thimble of water per day while wearing the suit.
Which thermodynamically doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. But anyway. And then they never even wear like the face part of it because they don't want to cover their faces for shooting. So, I don't know.
I don't know if you ever have to take a shit in the suit.
It dehydrates it and just...
You just shit sand.
Yeah.
Dr. Kynes remarks that Paul wears his suit correctly on his first try, like the way he wears like the suit over his boots or something.
Yeah, I don't know
Right,
why
yeah.
that was a big
There was
deal.
some like saying in the prophecy where like he'll like naturally know the ways of the Fremen or something.
Okay.
So like he just instinctively got this one right.
I was like, I'm sure they put that detail in there for a reason.
yeah.
So now they all get on a ornithopter and like they fly out. So Dr. Kynes is showing them around. They come up for one of their sand harvesters or spice harvesters that's harvesting the spice, and they show that basically each of these harvesters will have like a couple like small scout ships over top looking for worm sign.
Yeah.
And if they see a worm, they'll still harvest like up until the point like the worm gets close. Once the worm gets close, they're going to send these things down that'll attach with anchors and like balloon this heavy piece of machinery up so the worm can't get it.
Okay, I didn't realize they were like trying to take the whole thing with them. I guess.
Well, that's what
Maybe they were just getting the spice and the crew or something.
No, they were going to take the whole thing up, and actually, there's a scene I think before that where they actually show one of these things being moved.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So they were going to take the whole machine because otherwise you're going to lose a lot of money. Yeah. Although, like, so we're getting to it. The worm's going to eat that. Like, these worms, they can digest some big shit, man.
Yeah, it has to be gigantic. It swallows this like enormous piece of equipment.
What do these worms normally eat?
Like just anything in the sand, I guess.
That's what I was wondering because, like, yeah, I'm sure occasionally they'll eat a Fremen or two, but like,
They're 400 meters long.
yeah,
Probably like little creatures in the sand or something.
those mice, you would think they would run out of food, is what. Though, if you're that big of a creature, don't you need to eat quite a bit to survive?
Yeah.
I'm wondering the same thing. Like, what are they?
Maybe they're cold blooded, man. Maybe they don't need that much energy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, this particular one they're watching. So a worm is coming, and the thing comes down, but one of the anchors breaks, so they can't lift the machine. So like the crew is gonna die if they don't help them. So like they send, Paul and Josh Brolin out to kind of go tell the other guys, hey, 7 apiece, go in the different copters or whatever. But Paul, he gets his like first like taste of sand or spice or whatever, and so he starts hallucinating, which causes him almost to die. But as he has the hallucination, like he hears the Kwisatz Haderach awakes, and he also sees a vision of himself being stabbed by Zendaya's character Chani. Jeez. That was loud. And also, the vision shows him that he knows that a knife will be given to him at some point in his journey. All right, so him and Josh Brolin narrowly escape getting eaten, but yeah, we see this huge worm come up and swallow the thing.
Yeah, as they fly away.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, like he gets high just from like the spice and the sand. So like, what if he got like a full dose of spice? I feel like he's gonna be fucked up for like a month or something. It's like I'm sensitive to the spice.
All this does is get me to normal.
It'll never be like the first time.
I can see the future.
He's always chasing the dragon.
I can see the other end of space. So next he has a scene with his mom, and he can sense that she's pregnant, and she's like, how did you do that? I barely know that I'm pregnant. I think he also kind of tells her about his vision or whatever. And he kind of sees he also has a vision of her with the new like daughter, like baby. And like, I think she has all these weird markings on her face and blue eyes, his
like
mom.
she's a Fremen,
Yeah, like she's a Fremen. Okay. Oh, we get a brief scene on Seleucia Secundus, which is the Imperial Army planet, where we see David Dastmalchian's character, like, basically, getting the platoon of the Emperor's Sardaukar soldiers that'll help, take over. So yeah, this is where things start to heat up. So during the night, Leto like he hears something, and he like gets up and he's looking out and he sees the shield around the city has come down basically.
Right, and there's like lights or explosions in the distance.
Yeah, so he turns on his shield, and then he sees the what's her name, Shadow Mapes, the house lady. She's like on the ground dead. And at that moment, like, yeah, he like gets hit in the back by something, and we see it's a needle that, yeah, it gets through his shield, I guess, by like constant pressure against it or something. And then that's when Dr. Yue comes up to him and he's like, "Sorry, man, I didn't want to do it, but I sold you out. The Baron Harkonnen has my wife, and like by doing this, I'll get her back or something." And like, I feel like the Baron is so over the top evil that he had to be fucking stupid to not know that that he was gonna.
But anyway, he's desperate and he sold him out.
Yeah. So as Leto's down, he's like, "Okay, listen, like, sorry about this. Like, you're gonna die, but here's the thing: you got a peg tooth. I'm gonna replace it with this one. Bite down on it. You can breathe poison on the Baron, and you can at least take him out."
Yeah.
Right. Okay. As everything's going down, Paul and Jessica are captured by the Harkonnen, and just like the Baron's agreement earlier, they, instead of being killed, they're being taken in a copter out to the desert to where they'll be left to die. Now we get a scene where Jason Momoa can show off his badass skills. He's just killing dudes left and right.
Right.
He steals a ornithopter, and like we get this kind of cool scene where he's like flying around and they're like shooting this laser beam at him, and and like he escapes it though because he's good. This scene like was another kind of maybe one of the better like visual moments is this attack, because like you're seeing all these like spaceships explode and fly in, and quite a bit of cool stuff here. And this is like, again, like you referenced earlier, like this is the last time we see Josh Brolin. Like we see him and his group.
Storms off
They're like they're armed with their knives. They're running towards the enemy, and he's like, "On me" or whatever. But yeah, as far as I know, we never see him again.
Okay, yeah, he's probably not dead.
Back on the copter, Paul and Jessica use the Jedi mind trick voice to escape their captures. They end up killing them all. And they find what they call Frem kit that was left by Dr. Yue, because like he does like feel bad about betraying it. Like he does like him, but he's doing it to get his wife back. So, but he leaves him this kit to help him out. It includes the Atreides like house ring, which he took from Leto while he was like giving him the tooth. And it also has a Atreides homing beacon, so that hopefully someone from House Atreides will find them. So yeah, now we go to the Baron. He of course kills Dr. Yue. He's like, yeah, I told you I'd like put you back with your wife or whatever, and we killed her or whatever. So he rips his head off. Okay, so Leto bites down on the tooth, breathes out. We see a bunch of people, including David Dastmalchian's character, die, and at that point we maybe think the Baron died, but in a couple scenes later, he's not. He flew up to the roof and he's like breathing like bad. Like it definitely like injured him.
Yeah, so he like turned on his shield beforehand.
Yeah,
and also like he activated his belt, went up to the ceiling or whatever, but he definitely got like a dose.
So a gas can get through the shield.
I mean, I guess you're still breathing.
Yeah, that's true. You're still breathing.
But yeah, not he didn't take enough to kill him, although it killed like a bunch of other people in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have thought since he was the closest one.
Right. I think the shield helped.
Yeah, maybe. If I lived in that world, I would just have the shield on constantly, unless it runs on batteries or some shit. Let's see. Okay. So now, Paul and his mom are in a tent like through the night, and I found this interesting, but at the same time, I'm not sure I totally understood it. So Paul has this vision of him fighting, I think, like leading the Fremen, like alongside the Fremen, and like he's like a real badass fighter. But then he also like is in fear because he sees this holy war spreading across the universe, a religious warrior race of Atreides killing in his father's name. So like I was confused because that all meshed together. Is he like saying that he's fighting against that faction?
I'm not 100% there either. But like the thing about like his visions is like he sees things that like could be. So
Yeah, because I'll get to that. There's a moment where you see something that then is immediately like contradicted later on. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how his visions work, but I guess that's kind of the fun of the movie, is seeing how that plays out. There's a scene where Duncan finds that Kynes lady, and like I don't remember exactly what their scene is. He's kind of mad at her, but at the same time allows her to come with him on the copter. And then he finds Paul and Jessica, and that's the scene where they use that sand spreader because the tent got covered in sand, and they dig their way out. Kynes brings them to an old station that she says was originally meant to free the water from under the sand. So apparently there is water in the world. They were going to free the water from the sand, but then basically when the people found out how valuable the spice was, they shut that station down so they couldn't do it or whatever because they want the spice, right? So I found that kind of interesting that at one point they were working towards like bringing the water to the surface.
Right.
It was kind of interesting. Now there's a conversation between Paul and Kynes. Paul suggests that he should become the emperor. He mentions like the emperor doesn't have any sons and his daughters aren't married.
Right, he talks about marrying like a daughter or something.
Yeah, and that might be like the best way to like, you know, end the conflict or whatever. Next, the Sardaukar attack. We get another scene with Jason Momoa like being a badass, and he kills a bunch of guys, but they do eventually get him down.
Yeah.
Old Duncan.
Dunk.
Paul and Jessica escape on a thopter. So Kynes agrees that basically she's going to report what's happened here because she's going to expose that the Emperor used his soldiers to play against House Atreides, which of course he's not supposed to do. But basically, as soon as she leaves, she's stabbed by one of the Emperor's soldiers. They're about to kill her, and she basically just uses the sandworm. She like rhythmically beats on the ground to attract the worm, and it comes up and gets them all. So she's dead, but she at least was able to take out the guy that stabbed her. Let's see. Paul and Jessica escape some jet fighters that are coming after them in a dust cloud. But then they crash land, but they survive.
Right.
We get a scene with the Baron and Dave Bautista. Apparently, the way to heal the Baron who breathed in poisonous gas is that he gets in like this chocolate mud bath.
Yeah, big mud bath.
I don't know how that heals him, but
yeah, he's not completely healed.
Yeah, he's in the process though. And he basically, I think he tells Batista basically, you know, start selling spice, sell it slowly so like the price stays up.
Yeah.
Because that's what we need right now is money, and kill all the Fremen basically. So yeah, now Paul and Jessica are in search for the Fremen. They can safely stay on rocks because the worms can't get them there.
Yeah, it's like Tremors.
Yeah. But otherwise, when they travel between the rocks, well, apparently, this is another thing. Is like part of the movie, like they'll just be walking normally, but then he's like, "Oh, this is worm country."
Right.
So now we got to do the sand walking. I don't know exactly how he tells what's worm country.
Right.
Like maybe it's more wavy or something. I don't. Why would the worms just like stay in certain parts? Is it too rocky underneath?
Well, that's kind of what I assumed is it's bedrock at some places.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do the weird little sand walk to avoid them. Okay, so this is where he has a vision that's contradicted. So he has this vision of this black guy named Jamis, and who in the vision is a friend of his, like basically showing him like, you know, the ropes of Arrakis or whatever, and like the Fremen ways. But then I'll just skip ahead. Basically, they find the Fremen, and he gets in a fight in this guy and ends up killing him.
Right.
So like in pretty short order, like we're like, well, that vision wasn't quite right.
Right. Well, didn't he have like part of his vision was the other guy killed him? Or am I remember? I don't know.
That was part of it too,
But then there was also some quote was like,
because he's like,
if you kill somebody, you kill yourself or something.
yeah, I might have written that down actually. Let me go back. So Paul and Jessica, before they get to the Fremen, they narrowly escape a sandworm. It almost gets them. So yeah, they find the Fremen, which includes Stilgar, which was Javier Bardem, Jamis, the black guy, and Chani, which is Zendaya's character. Jamis is immediately hostile and tries to kill Paul. Paul has a vision of him being killed so he can rise again as the Kwisatz Haderach. So yeah, basically the vision is he's stabbed and dies, but that allows him to be reborn.
Right, okay.
Chani gives Paul a crysknife, or at least I think it was a crysknife. So then Paul and Jamis get in a fight. Paul ends up killing him, and he doesn't really want to. Like, he has several opportunities where he can kill him, but he's like trying to get him to stand down.
Right.
But Javier Bardem's like, no, we don't do that. So he ends up having to kill him. And basically after that, he's accepted by the Fremen as one of their own. And Paul and the Fremen walk into the desert. As they do, they see, and this is something that I knew was going to happen at one point because it does happen in that 1980s movie. The Fremen like know how to actually ride the worms. Like they use these two like kind of hooks. And put them in there. Chani says this is only the beginning, and we fade to credits.
Yeah, desert power.
Yeah, desert power. So yeah, this is. I kind of feel like if the second movie lands well, I think people will appreciate this movie more. I think it is a little bit hard when you only see half the story, though, to judge a movie when you only have half the story.
I think it's pretty good.
But yeah, I did like it a lot. But I can't see why some people would be bored with parts of it, just because it is kind of a slow burn in some points, and like there are like the long scenes of them walking through the desert. Is that kind of what got you? Like,
yeah, I was after enough seeing them in the desert. I was like, all right, I think I just fell out of love with the whole visual appeal of the movie at that point.
Okay, like what parts of it would you say you liked the best?
I don't know.
Did you like the more actiony parts of the movie, like when they're attacked and stuff like that?
Yeah, I liked a lot of the new introduction of like technology and stuff too. The visual appeal of it at first, it was really cool. So that stuff got me going.
Yeah, I might have to go back because I think there's a couple of this director's movies that I've seen a lot of them, but I think maybe a couple that I haven't seen. But he is a talented guy. Like I certainly don't like this movie as much as Blade Runner 2049, but you definitely see. I definitely saw some things in that movie that kind of, from a visual standpoint, reminded me of Blade Runner 2049 that I liked. But yeah, I'm definitely up for when part 2 comes out.
Yeah, I'll still watch the next part. I think so much happens in these books. This was mostly just setting up the rest of the story, so I'm still interested in that.
Now, did you remember the book well enough that, like, you weren't surprised by anything in this movie, or?
I mean, I'm sure there was stuff I didn't remember and still stuff I didn't catch, but
And there could be differences.
on the whole, I don't remember anything insanely different.
Okay. All right, so, boy, I guess we're to the judging area already. Guys, where would you rate this movie? Scale of 1 to 10.
I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, probably 7.5, 8.
I'm going to go 8. I liked it. And like I said, as long as the second movie doesn't shit the bed, like I kind of think people will appreciate this first one more.